What's up, Diablo 4 players? So this player needs some massive help on his character. So let's go ahead and break it down and kind of do two things at once. One, we're going to actually help him make his character better, but two, we definitely want to go over how to make a build that does not suck. So there's only really one picture here that the OP posted, which is basically showing off his Sork. And he mentioned that, "Hi folks, I'm a level 99 Sork, and I'm wondering if I should be able to, being level 99, clear T3 Infernal Hordes." The answer is yes. If your build can't even do T3, that is incredibly bad. And that's okay. We're here to go and show you guys how to improve. Heck, a lot of my video guides are showing you guys how to make good builds. So let's go ahead and go over like the ins and outs and going over kind of how to not suck at the game. So for starters, one of the most important things in this image here, because it's the only image that we have, and then they mentioned like down when I was reading the post that they mentioned, in fact, they were actually using like some sort of razor plate over here. And someone mentioned that it looks like they have like a bunch of garage sales of uniques, which I thought was pretty funny. But basically, you cannot just go with, he says that I'm not following a specific build, I'm just going with my feelings and what works. Obviously, this does not work. That's why he needs some help. So let's go ahead and help him out. So for starters, looking at this, just this picture alone, I mean, it's just all over the place. So for starters, you have, I can't see your whole skill bar, but you have Incinerate and then Teleport. Then you have a staff that is supposed to be for our shock skills, having the ability to trigger some sort of extra bonus. And if you're using Incinerate as your damage, well, that's not going to work. But then you also have Esu's boots, which were based on crit, and Incinerate is a damage over time, which damage over time cannot crit. And then he mentioned that he was playing Razor Blade, which is terrible because one, Sork doesn't really benefit off thorns, and there's no way to really scale it like you can on the Barbarian. But there's a lot of things that are all over the place. Then you have basic skill damage, gem in your weapon, and then you have damage over time. So your build is just all over the place. Then I don't know if these pants are axial conduit or what, but you need to choose a skill and then invest heavily into it. The best suggestion that I can have for you versus like giving you advice on every single piece of gear, because some people were kind of just saying, like while I was reading it, they're like, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. There's a lot of things wrong with your build. The best suggestion that I can have for you is to just look at a build guide, whether that is mine or just going on to like Maxroll or Mobalytics. There's a lot of different build websites that you can go to actually find a good build. Now, keep in mind though that there are technically bad builds on other build websites. Ideally, you would look for someone that is a Diablo partner or a Mobalytics partner or someone that has posted lots of stuff before on, like, let's say Maxroll versus just a random person's build on that website. So we're going to use Mobalytics for this example, but this can apply to all of the build websites, whether you want to use Icy Veins, Mobalytics, Maxroll, whatever. So for starters, there is a website called mobalytics.gg. Recommend going to that, click on where it says Diablo, and then you can go into the meta builds. I'd really recommend you to start off with a meta build and then decide what skill that you enjoy, and then maybe you can try to make your own skill. So here's one of the best recommendations because your build is just all over the place. You need to go and select, let's say Sorcerer, because that's the class unless you want to go swap classes. Click Sorcerer, go here into the build type, click where it says meta, learn the meta first, get your resources, and then if you want to make another thing, you could do that. So right now, currently, the best build is going to be the Lightning Spear Sorceress / Frozen Orb. So it's basically kind of like a Fractured Winter class. Now, usually for my build guides, I usually just play the video and then I'll have the gameplay, but I'm just going to go and show you guys other people's builds. These are two content creators that I can recommend, Nick2 and Lurkin, another awesome Mobalytics content creators. But I would really recommend you guys to read some of the stuff, and a lot of these builds are going to be like 99% the same, to be honest with you guys. And the reason why is because this is the meta. Like, you cannot play the build without this item. These are the best chest pieces. This is the best helm piece. So trying to copy the build exactly is absolutely key, and you need to copy it exactly if you want to see the same results. I remember some people like looking at some builds and they're like, well, I don't have this item, the build doesn't function. Yes, if you don't have Fractured Winterglass, the build does not function if you're trying to shoot out Frozen Orbs and have all these conjurations come out. Some builds require an item. If you need to know where to farm that specific item, there is a great thing, and I'll also link it for you guys, which is over on Maxroll. They actually have what boss drops what sort of thing that you need. That's just maxroll.gg/d4/wiki uniques. So it'll tell you exactly where it drops. Now, most of these do drop at the end game, so don't expect to be like level 1, be like, okay, I need this item. He said I need Harlequin. I'm gonna go at level 1 and I'm gonna get my Harlequin. Some of these will require you to actually progress in the game. Now, he's level 99, so of course, this is not going to be really that much of a problem. And again, going into your build, the main thing that I want to focus in on is you need to decide what skill that you want to use. And if you're using a skill that cannot do damage over time or cannot crit, well, then then you have conflicting things. Right now, your build is so all over the place with Razor Plate. I don't know if that's Starfall, Corona, and then like Frostburns. Like your build is all over the place. And then you have a aspect that is for shock skills. It's just like the best way that I can point this out is that you tried to create a hot character in like, let's say Skyrim or Oblivion, where you hit randomize and you're like, my character's ugly. Well, yeah, because you hit randomize. That is literally your build over here. It's just random. It's just like someone else mentioned. You got a garage sale, a bunch of random uniques, and threw them together and we're like, okay, my build, hey guys, it doesn't work. I didn't follow a build guide. Okay, so other things though that we can go over that are very key here, not only just going to a website, and I would really recommend, there's so many problems here just to look at what you enjoy, but I'm also going to go over some sort of things that will really help other builds out as well. So for starters, your armor is not capped, and I don't know what your resistances are, but you ideally want to try to get resistances up as well as your armor. You'll see in almost every single build in the game right now in Season 5, the armor cap is going to be 9,230. You want to make sure that you hit that. If you do not hit that number, then you will be taking significant amounts of damage. Now, on top of that, you also want to look at resistances. Resistances should be at least 70, and you can go even further with that with an item called Tyrael's Might, which will actually super increase your survivability in the game over here. You can see this person's actually using this specifically to fulfill the armor requirements, because that's what strength does, at least as of right now. But for the most part, this is something that you will have to factor in your build. How are you going to reach your armor cap? Is that going to be through your tempering on some of your armor pieces? Is that going to be a flat roll on your boots, your pants, maybe your chest piece? Maybe you don't have Tyrael's Might yet. Harlequin will also give you a massive amount of armor, but also doing masterworking is very key. So masterworking, and you seem to understand what the masterworking is because you have a couple pieces of masterwork over here. You have like your chest and your pants and your boots masterwork, but the rest of the stuff is not masterwork. Why is it not masterwork? You want to try to get them to 12 out of 12. That will give you a significant amount of bonus stats. I mean, the difference between getting your stuff masterworked and not masterworked, let's just go over this for example, right? Let's say we have like life, and let's say we wanted this one over here. So we go from 2,000 life, okay, let's not even use greater effort. We go from 1,500 life to 2,300. That's a pretty big jump. And a lot of times on the weapons though, whatever skill that you want, that could be fireball. If you're using lightning spear, like a lot of people are using, you may want to get like this transfer the whatever skill to actually be a second time or deal double damage. This is actually a very important temper to actually get on a lot of the skills. So if your skill is something that you can temper on for double damage, you definitely want to go ahead and get that, whether that's like penetrating shot activating 2 times or whatever skill doing double damage. This is where you get a big chunk of damage. So make sure that you are also tempering your pieces of gear. So you can see you did temper on damage, which usually you want some sort of like crit damage or something that can give you other multipliers. A lot of times in the lightning spear builds, you'll see over on the skill tree that there's like a bonus of you get your X increased critical strike damage. So you get way more benefit versus getting flat damage to get crit damage. That's why a lot of builds will go into crit, is because there's just a lot of multipliers. And on top of that, this damage gets increased by your crit. So you want all of these things to kind of work together. You don't want to have like, oh, your lightning shock skills and then your fire skills, and then you had like frostburns, which is like cold and fire, but then you had lightning as one of the things on the aspects. There's just too many things all over the place. You'll see this very common in a lot of builds where everything is funneled into one skill. So you'll just see a bunch of aspects that give you some sort of flat like damage. Like Storm Swell is an excellent example where you're just going to deal 30x increased damage. Maybe this one has a condition, right? Or you can run Aspect of Elements, Inner Calm. These are all ones that are kind of generic that will just increase your damage for whatever, and not a very specific skill, but it's just whatever you are using, right? And you really want to try to focus in on all of your aspects and all of the skills to be funneled into basically one thing. Now, Lightning Spear is a little bit different. If you were to play, let's say, something like Fireball, then you would want to slam all your points into Fireball. So make sure you get all that, and then, you know, obviously get whatever one you want. I can't see your skill tree or Paragon board, but that is also something that would be helpful if you're trying to show off a build and saying, hey guys, I need help. But again, your build is just so all over the place, I couldn't decide for you what you want to play. Again, if you're interested in playing Shock, then again, Lightning Spear is kind of the way you want to go. And then you had, again, Incinerate. Look at the Incinerate build. I actually have a full guide that has a video and that shows you everything. If you guys want that, that will also be there. But you need to try to pick out what skill that you want. And then again, masterworking on all of your pieces of gear will significantly increase a lot of your survivability and damage. So get all of your stuff. And one thing that I want to also give as a tip is don't feel you need to get one piece of gear to 12 out of 12 and then get another piece of gear 12 out of 12. Go and get your things, everything 4 out of 4, then everything 8 out of 8, then everything 12 out of 12. Do it in that order. easier. In most circumstances, that's going to be the most bang for your buck for speed because it's going to cost more expensive material as you kind of progress in the game. Don't worry too much about getting the correct masterworking in the very beginning, especially when you're looking at like 4 and 8. Later, when your character is super powerful and you can do the Infernal Hordes and just melt content, then you can go ahead and decide, you know, I want to triple masterwork this specific thing on a piece of gear, because sometimes this could take 20, 30, 40, 50 rolls. It takes a really long time to get triple masterworking done, but it will significantly help out your character, whether you want to try to get more HP or more damage. Sometimes though, it's just RNG on what it actually gives you, right? But looking at a lot of other guides, sometimes what I like to do is look at 2 different builds, and then I will decide for myself, like even though these 2 are like very, very similar, right? This is the Frozen Orb, like Lightning Spear Sork that pretty much everyone's playing. And you can kind of see, you know, maybe this person's playing a different, you know, item than the other person, and maybe they're running a different aspect here. Maybe you actually prefer running the Ring of Stars Skies versus, let's say, Tall Rashas. It's up to you. There are sometimes things where it's kind of dependent on the player. Maybe you enjoy a certain playstyle more. Maybe you're having resources problems, so Stars of Skies is going to be more advantageous than, let's say, the Tall Rasha ring. You could mix and match certain things. Don't always feel like you have to copy exactly. You can open up 3 or 4 different builds and say, oh, you know what, I kind of like this edition of this. Or if you go into the Paragon board, you're like, you know, I really like this specific glyph or this specific pathing because maybe I want more HP, maybe I want more damage. Use that to your advantage, and it's going to significantly increase your potential to actually build builds in the future. And the one thing I really want to highlight specifically is you need to choose which skill that you enjoy. So I know, you know, there's a couple fire skills here. You're like, wow, I'm a fire sword, right? I do Incinerate, I got my Meteor. Well, I'm not sure why you're playing Chain Lightning, but then you have Firewall. You don't need to go ahead and throw in all those skills all at once. You need to pick one that you enjoy the most and then run the build that is specifically for that one. And you have to decide that for yourself. You can make hybrid builds in the game, but I really recommend you do that way later once you understand the mechanics, once you understand build guides. That way you can have the material at least to try to build up those. And sometimes the hybrid builds may not be the best. A lot of times in action RPGs, you kind of pick one skill and that's your damage button. Sometimes there are other things that will be stepping stones to get bigger damage, but it's still usually 1 damage. So hopefully this guide helped you guys out if you guys were having trouble with some builds, and also just helping out this fellow Diablo player. Just try not to split up too many different things. Again, the best example is like hitting randomize on Skyrim, then being like, dude, my character's ugly. Yeah, you really can't make a good build out of just throwing in all of your favorite, you know, uniques. And also, definitely don't run Race to Play on the Sork. You want to try to focus in on the skill that you enjoy, and then you'll be a-okay. And don't always think uniques are the best in slot. I know they seem cooler than the legendaries when they drop because there's like a different color beam, but that does not mean that they are actually better. But that's going to go wrap up things. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn that bell if you want to see more updates and more guides in the future. But good luck, my friend. Do it.